Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Connor here, and we are here with another episode of, well, that's not even an episode, is it? It's just another review, another post-match chat. Leeds United beaten well by Aston Villa last night. I was down at the game. God, it wasn't good from moment one. You felt an anxiety, you felt a toxicity. I felt very, very quickly in the game. Listen, the Bielsa mystique's gone, hasn't it? We all know that. We all know are all very, very aware of that. I think if that result last night is Bielsa, people are still glossing on it and still turning around and saying, it's Bielsa. We've still got this. We've still got that chance, and that's understandable. That's certain people's opinions, but that gloss has certainly worn off now. And I just want to touch on the Bielsa thing because you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Really, when you put your head above the parapet on a YouTube channel. I thoroughly believe there still had to be a change. Initially, I wanted Marcelo Bielsa to adapt. If you check out my video from around about a month ago now, was never calling for Marcelo Bielsa to be out. I hated that anyway. People were asking me. I was not saying that at all. But what I was saying is I wanted him to adapt. I wanted him to change. That didn't happen. And consequently, after the Spurs game, I said that a change might be beneficial for Leeds United. Now, if you look at other fixtures like last night, Everton and Southampton, there's an argument that those were worse than last night. I think last night was absolutely horrendous. The XG, the lowest in 6 years. But when you're talking about general performances, the writing's been on the wall for a while, guys. We've seen performances like this. We somehow got away with a 0-0 at Brighton after being battered for 90 minutes as well. So teams in and around us, or maybe a little bit higher than us, have also had Leeds' number now for a while, in my opinion. And yeah, I still think, in a man-for-man system, there's an argument if people are speculating now that Bielsa may have got a different result last night. I would speculate back to that and say I think in the man-marking system going away to Leicester, we get hammered. So I think it's horses for courses, isn't it? And I've mentioned that several times. I think this is a huge problem. This isn't just the Bielsa thing. This is everything. It's the board. It's Bielsa. It's the board's strategy in terms of what they've done. The windows, 3 out of 4 windows have been absolutely horrendous. The summer window was negligent. I called it out on the channel. I then said on the channel that there is a real likelihood that Leeds could finish 17th this year. My heart says 13th. My head says 17th. Got berated on the channel for it because the writing was on the wall. This squad wasn't good enough. You had Leeds fans turning around and saying, we're going to finish 6th. We're going to finish 8th or 9th again. It was never, ever, ever going to happen. And if you were ones saying that, you're taking the Premier League very, very lightly. It is a ruthless league. It is the best league in the world. And you can get teams who are 13th, 14th, who, in my opinion, would beat teams who are 4th and 5th in other leagues, other European leagues. So I think all that being taken into consideration, you have to put that out beforehand because I know I'm going to get loads of people saying, "Are you happy now? You wanted Bielsa out." I never was on a campaign of getting Bielsa out. That never happened. And if you're a follower of this channel, you will know that. I don't think it would have been any better. I still am of the firm belief that we'd have gone down with Marcelo Bielsa. I am of the firm belief that Leeds United are still on a one-way trip to the Championship. And that was for the board to get it right. And that's why the blame is on the board as well. They had to get it right. They had to go above Marcelo Bielsa if he didn't want that many additions aside from Brendan Aronson in January and just bring bodies in. And Bielsa would have had to have worked with these bodies regardless because we just continuously get injuries anyway. The board didn't do that. And they sacked him 26 days after the window. The season's been a shambles, everybody. Pre-season, I went to 3 pre-season games and it looked like a different team. Leeds were absolutely dreadful in pre-season. As I've mentioned, the windows have been absolutely horrendous. The start of the season, when we had Patrick Bamford, when we had Calvin Phillips, was awful. Everton battered us. I went to the Everton game 2-2 earlier on in the season. Everton could have been 4-1 up. Burnley, when we played them at Turf Moor, they outplayed us for 80 minutes. Leeds got lucky. Newcastle, a game of 2 halves. We let them back into the game. Manchester United, another drubbing. So this isn't Liverpool a hammering at home, which should have been 10-0. This has been a long-term thing now. As I said, most recently, Everton being absolutely mauled by a team who are below us still. They are actually still below us somehow. I know they've got 3 games in hand, and I think they'll pick up some points there and ultimately go above us. but overall they are still below us, and we are that terrible. What does that say about Everton? You know, so they beat us. They beat us 3-0. So this is how bad it's got. You know, Southampton last season, Ralph Hasenhüttl turned around and he said he wants to be more like Leeds. He loves the way we are, this, that, and the other. And they completely battered us in that Southampton game. We couldn't touch the ball. We didn't get out of our half. So this isn't just a now thing. You know, I don't think we can solely blame it on Jesse Marsh for for 2 games. But what I will say, Jesse Marsh got it completely wrong last night. Whatever the motivation was for the side, I've absolutely no idea. We came out in a 4-2-2-2 system, which is naturally where the one of the fullbacks or the wingers is inverted. The other one plays out wide. We saw that against Leicester. Prime example was the overlap Junior Firpo did for Jack Harrison. Jack Harrison was inverted. Firpo did the overlap, and then Rafinha should have scored. That is a hallmark of the Jesse Marsh system. The Red Bull system, that wasn't happening last night. They were all clustered. They looked like a no understanding whatsoever of what they're supposed to do. You'd have a centre back getting the ball, and they'd all be clustered in a narrow formation like that. And Jesse didn't. Nothing happened. You know, there wasn't an alteration, a modification, a manipulation of what we were doing. It just stayed as it was. The players didn't want the ball. And that irks me more than a lot of things, because one thing, I might not have been the best footballer, but I'd have always got the ball in tough situations, and I'd have tried to play. And, you know, I love players who do that, players who actually get the ball and have the balls to be all right with making a mistake, you know, in tough situations. And we got bullied. We were a used play toy for a dog last night. That's what we were. Villa weren't even, in my opinion, out of second gear. And with utmost respect, this is Villa. You know, we're not talking about Man City. We're not talking about Liverpool. We're talking about Aston Villa. You know, they're a decent team, but they've still lost 7 games under Steven Gerrard. They're not that good. An embarrassing performance, a pathetic performance, woeful. So many descriptive words that we can align next to that. Players gave up as well. Second goal went in. Rafinha went down on his heels, started punching the floor like a 4-year-old. After the game, he just walked down the tunnel. He's checked out, everybody. I never wanted to come on and blame him because of the credit in the bank, but it seems like since the last international appearance, it's been poor performance after poor performance from him. And this is a guy who, him and Rodrigo, allegedly were some of the ones who weren't happy with the Bielsa regime. Well, then at least when the new manager comes in, at least perform above your stations, give 110%. I don't think he was the worst player on the pitch last night, but you've got a player, you've actually got a world-class player on your side there who can change a game, who can help this side. And he's checked out. Rodrigo, the £30 million flop, unfortunately, as I mean, we've called it on this channel for a while. It was a bizarre signing when it first happened anyway. It looked like a marquee signing. Barcelona nearly got him 2 seasons before, so we brought him in. Well, I don't even think we had a plan for him. Was he going to be a 10? Was he going to be a 9 to compete with Bamford, or was he always going to be an 8? You know, I don't know what I don't know what he's playing at the minute, but I mean, at the weekend, I thought he was decent. But then he comes back and gives the fans a rallying call on Instagram, and then puts in a performance like that. One of the probably the worst performances he's ever put in. He was pulled off, deservedly so. Shocking, absolutely woeful. But yeah, Leeds are in massive trouble. And listen, if you've been a long-term subscriber of this channel on One Leeds, I always try say that the when people deem it as negativity and pessimism, it might be, but I do look at it as realism. We were calling, I've called and got battered on this channel before, the league position, us struggling this season. 100% with the investment, and got hammered for that on the pre-season preview as well. I said that if there's not enough adaptation, if we don't go into this season like we had towards the back end of last season when we'd adapted, won 7 games out of 10, we were going to struggle, because you could see it in pre-season. And we said in November Leeds weren't going to do any business, because we don't. There's no evidence. The only time we've done business really out the last 4 windows is one of them when we came up to the Premier League. So, you know, the evidence is there, the patterns, the trends are there. So I said in November, we're going to struggle to stay in this division. And you guys will all know that. You know, the Burnley game on the debrief, the fellas were hounding me out. You know, you're going to be positive, this, that, and the other. But, you know, before the Burnley game, I knew what was going on. The writing's been on the wall since the start. It really has. I mean, player for player last night, Junior Firpo. Jesus Christ. What an upgrade that was. I mean, Alioski, I was never his biggest fan. You guys know that. But at least he gave energy. At least he gave endeavour. At least, be able to irritate the opposition player. He'd be able to get forward. And, if you're getting rid of Alioski, at least improve on him. How have we got worse? How have we actually got worse than Alioski? And that's no disrespect to Alioski. He was at his peak limitation, really, in the Premier League. And you look at where he's gone afterwards, guys. We're not talking about he's not gone to Napoli, has he? He's not gone to Sevilla. He's not gone to a top club. Alioski is playing in what Qatar, I think he is now. The same with all the players that are left. They're not playing at higher levels than Leeds right now. So that tells its own story. But we've actually got worse than Alioski. What is going on with the recruitment? Dan James, you guys know I'm a massive fan of Dan James, but we paid 30 million quid for Dan James. Are we mugs? 30 million quid when you've got Noah Lang asking price for about 15 to 20 million. Listen, as I've said, I like Dan James, but I like as I've just spoken about, his energy and endeavour, but his just final product's just horrendous. It's so bad. Jack Harrison. Hot and cold Harrison. I want him to prove me wrong, as I've said multiple times, but he never does. It's always the same thing. Dragging his shorts, frustrated, looking up at the sky like he always does. Gets frustrated. Cannot make a cross. Bad decisions across the pitch. His head is constantly down. Never looks up. Always makes a pass with his head down. Strout, called him an elite player several times. He looks timid, looks scared, terrified of the ball at the minute. Robin Koch, why are we playing him defensive midfield? I said this under Bielsa. Why are we playing him in defensive midfield? He's not got the distribution skills. I think he's still soft in the tackle. I think they're all soft in the tackle. Click, Harrison, Rodrigo, Koch. I think they're all soft in the tackle, really. But a defensive midfielder in this system, whatever system it is, you have to be able to distribute the ball a distance, surely. And I know it's all about short spaces and half spaces with Marsh. But, if you go in long, which he does do in his system, you've got to be able to at least do that with accuracy. Shout out to Ayling, who I thought was decent last night. He was the only one taking responsibility. The only one who looked like he cared last night. And I'll throw Stuart Dallas in there. I thought he was poor again. But it's just the options, everyone. It's like even Llorente on the bench. I think Llorente, he was struggling under Bielsa. I think he'll struggle anyway. And there's a reason he's been kept out of the side, clearly. But it is desperation at the minute. It's desperation stuff. The fact that we're not in the relegation zone at the minute, it is a matter of time between the two teams below us, directly below us. They've got 5 games in hand. I think Burnley need 2 draws. That's it. And Everton need 1. And they're above us because of our shocking goal difference. Some people don't think goal difference makes a difference. Well, if Everton get a point against Wolves, they go above us on goal difference. So it does mean something, obviously. So, yeah, as I say, guys, I think the writing's been on the wall for a while now. I've been optimistic of Jesse Marsh because I thought we were going to get a manager boost. And that's what I was hoping on. That's what I said on the debrief when Bielsa went. It's all we can hope for is a manager boost. That's all we can hope for right now. It seems like the boost was against Leicester and we still lost the game. Last night looked like the team looked terrified. Didn't look like there was any understanding of any sort of new system, of any new ideas. And Jesse has to start. There has to be some sort of outcome from why he's here. Of course there does. There needs to be a performance outcome. Results. It's not a performance outcome, it's a results outcome now. And if we don't get that, we're down. I mean, we might as well relegate us now. But listen, if we can't beat Norwich, then that's it, isn't it? I think we're all aware of that. That's it. We can have 9 games to go. We've still got 3 top sides in those 9 games. Throw Wolves in there, I guess, as another top side. If we can't beat Norwich, what's the point? It really, the worst team in the division. I think we're the worst team in the division. And I've got a horrible feeling about the weekend. I really have after last night. Still not scored a goal in 4 games. More goals to add to our list last night. Let's go over the goals. Coutinho, apparently we had a plan for him. What was that plan? On his own for the first goal. I thought there didn't seem to be a press on him last night. I think it was going to be a unit thing. where 3 or 4 of them pressed on him every time he got the ball, but just seemed easy for him. Second goal, Ilan Meslier, the French hologram, the polo mint, just straight through him again. Listen, I love Ilan, but his distribution, I don't think is good enough. And I think now his shot stopping's been exceptionally poor as well. You look at the Man United game where there's an argument that he's at fault for all 4 goals. The John Joe Shelby free kick, which was just pathetic. And last night for that second goal as well. There has been so many goals that are attributed to this guy now. Can't just blame the defence in front of him. It is, and I know he saved a large amount of shots, but Ilan's now struggling to keep the ball out. His strongest attribute, shot stopping. And then the third goal, brilliant goal by Callum Chambers. But yeah, we were just there play toy last night. And as I say, guys, I'm going to reiterate that I think the writing was on the wall, even with Bielsa here. I think, I've stuck consistently throughout the season that it was going to be a tough season, a really, really tough season. But when we didn't do anything in January, and when I knew we wouldn't do anything in January because there was no room, there was no talk of anything, no real foundation thing. Everton went out and got Mikolenko and Patterson on the first day. Watford went out and got a couple of signings. We didn't go out and do anything. And you knew then, because it's always been the same with Leeds. If we don't do anything straight away, we might do something on the last day of the window, just a bit of a panic buy. Or we'll just chase a player throughout, and then the lead will become cold. So yeah, transfer windows killed us for me, and that is the board's fault. I think it's Bielsa's fault as well. I just don't think you can judge Marsh right now, even though that performance last night was absolutely awful, horrendous. The crowd turned, and when I say you can't judge Marsh now, you can judge it on last night, but the Leicester performance was good, even though we lost. So it's a weird one. It is a weird one. If we come back and beat Norwich and it's a good performance, then 2 out of the 3 games have been good performances. But then we have lost 2 out of 3. So, but listen, we're in this mess for a culmination of things. I do think the board are number one, culpable for it all. But we are where we are. The points difference from Everton and Burnley to us was still the same under Bielsa, and the games in hand was still the same under Bielsa. We haven't picked up any wins since, and the state of play is the exact same. So we're 2 games down, and it'll be a miracle, everyone, if Leeds stay up, in my opinion. It'll be an absolute miracle. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. I know this has been depressing. Hopefully we win at the weekend, but let me know what you think.